Hey class, what's going on? I want to make this short video to support you here in chapters 8 and 9, vitamins and minerals. Now realize on a test, I'm not going to ask you about every single vitamin and every single mineral. It's just too overwhelming. You're not going to have to know the numbers, okay? Because the truth is when you look at vitamins and minerals, they're not going to limit performance. If you're getting in enough, then that's going to be plenty. Um, the only way that vitamins and minerals would help your performance is if you were deficient. And if athletes are, like we talked about, getting in enough calories, getting in enough fluid, that shouldn't be a problem. Okay. So the goal for athletes basically is to meet the RDAs or DRIs for all those micronutrients. And like I said, this is usually a 1 day lecture. And because the truth is, they don't really limit performance per se. Now, there are some vitamins and minerals that athletes need more of, and that's listed here: calcium, vitamin D, and some B vitamins, and C, and iron, and some of these others, selenium. All right. Now, if I had to ask you in class, and I may have done this in the 101 video on vitamins and minerals, but if I had to ask you, which athletes would be the most at risk, it's those athletes that are restricting their energy intake, they're eliminating one or more food groups, and in that case, taking in a multivitamin, or if you've just got athletes that aren't eating a quality diet, then that might be a reason for the athlete to take a multivitamin. Now, what I also want to do is I want to share with you usually what happens in our class around this topic is I do about a 15 to 30-minute talk, a little more extensive than this, but bottom line is we then do an assignment in class, because what this is the position stand that I keep referring to throughout the entire, the third referred to that throughout the entire class. This is on page 553 of the position stand, 553 and 554. And they talk about 4 of these micronutrients that tend to be the most important. Okay, and they talk about iron and vitamin D. They talk about calcium and antioxidants. And in class, what I do is I have the students, I have them pick one, and I put them in groups, and then I have them choose one to walk through. And the bottom line is it's saying similar to what we just said here when we look at micronutrients. It says athletes who frequently restrict energy intake, rely on extreme weight loss practices, eliminate one or more food groups from the diet, or consume poorly chosen diets may consume suboptimal amounts of micronutrients and benefit from supplementation. And then they go on to talk about these 4 keys. And there's some really good stuff in here. The challenge with a lot of students is it's really dense. I mean, this is all science-based here, but they talk about times when iron may be low, may be compromised during training adaptations, periods of rapid growth, training at altitude, menstrual blood loss, right? Foot strike hemolysis. You might not even think about foot strike hemolysis is when athletes are running, especially like endurance runners that run a lot. Every time your foot hits the ground, you lose some red blood cells. And so it doesn't happen to a great extent, but it does happen. And then they talk about blood donation, which is another thing. If you've got an athlete and they got big competition, donating blood in and around that competition is not a good idea. Okay. And then injury as well. And they talk about how you excrete iron, which is kind of interesting. And then they just go on to talk about the different types of iron deficiencies. There's a bunch. Okay. So my goal is not to go through all this, but I just wanted to show you. And then they do the same thing with vitamin D and talk about vitamin D. Again, I'm not going to go through all of this. I would refer you to these 2 pages in your position stand. And I think that should be enough to get us through the information from these 2 chapters. Again, don't dig into every single one and try to learn all the the DRIs, RDAs for all these. It's just not going to be something that you're going to be interested in unless, later on. You can always look these numbers up, is my kind of go-to here, because I can't remember these numbers. So just be aware of that. I hope this helps you guys. So hang in there. We're moving on to the next chapter.